I want you to imagine this. Imagine there's this neighborhood, and inside the neighborhood, there is a quiet cul-de-sac. And one of those neighbors, let's just say it's neighbor A on my little map. Don't mind my drawing. Let's just say that neighbor A begins to build a high-tech, massive shed building in their backyard. Now, neighbor B, right, they're way across. They don't exactly live in the cul-de-sac, but we're the self-appointed neighborhood watch. And we believe that it's not a shed for lawnmowers. It's a clandestine shed for a fireworks factory. It poses a risk to the entire block. Also, it could cross this main road in the middle here, and it poses a risk to our block as well. So therefore, we demand that neighbor A tear down the structure. After a heated argument, neighbor A comes up with a compromise. They say, listen, I won't put gunpowder in that shed for the next 5 years. I even let you take a peek through the window occasionally just to prove it. But the shed gets to stay, and after 5 years, I can do whatever the heck I want with you. So they say 5 years, that's what we're willing to do. What say you, neighbor B? Well, neighbor B says, nah, it's not gonna work. No, actually, we want a 20-year deal that you can't put any gunpowder in that shed. And if you don't do that, then it's gonna be big consequences. Now, one would say if you reject the 5-year deal, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, because 5 years is really 1,825 days of direct eyes-on intelligence of your neighbor's shed. And if you reject it, it's like the gate is being locked. And to grant access as the neighborhood watch, you may have to force entry. You may have to do all sorts of crazy stuff just to gain entry, trying to get the perfect deal. By holding out for a 20-year deal that may never be signed, the U.S. may have allowed that neighbor time to advance their technical capabilities, some of which they never would have made during that 5-year span. A completely ridiculous example, but I say that to say this. If you do have the scenario for which you're trying to get perfect when you could get good enough, you could end up in situations like we have right now with Iran. It is reported that we had the opportunity to get a 5-year deal in the negotiations that we had with Iran in Pakistan, according to the Wall Street Journal and other outlets as well. We'll talk about that more here in a second. But X, what the heck are you talking about? Let's just reset for a second. The Strait of Hormuz, we got this war that was going on and all of that good stuff. And so we see here the Strait of Hormuz is just this, it comes from the Gulf of Oman. It leads into the Persian Gulf. We're specifically kind of talking about one area where there's just this area where tons of ships have to cross through all the time. And now there seems to be a blockade in this area, a USA blockade. And so we seem to have a blockade, I would say like over here-ish. It may be even further back into the Gulf of Oman. Not really sure exactly how our Navy's set up, but we do know that we have seemingly a blockade. The Navy is controlling any ships that decide that they're going to go in and out of the Iranian port of Kesh or Kish, which is in the north. So if we look at that specific area, the Iranian port of Hormuz, the island of Hormuz, that is where a lot of passage occurs for any ships that may be interested in going to this area. So if the Navy senses that any ships are coming out of this area or they're heading to this area, they're conducting a blockade. If you're going to any ports in that area, they're conducting a blockade. Why the heck would they want to do that, X? Well, they're trying to do an economic blockade to see if we can make the Iranians bend to our will. We want to see if we can finally get them to come exactly where we want them to go economically. It's something we're willing to gamble with. Is it going to work? I think we're going to need more than 48 hours to know if this is 100% effective. This was put into place 48 hours ago. We're getting like day by day press and like day by day plays to see if this is going to like be thoroughly working. I'm not sure if that's how we should play this, because I think this could take like months to know if this is enough to bend the Iranians to their knees. It takes about 13 days ish until their entire like their overflow areas for their oil is completely filled up until they feel to the point where they need a way to get rid of some of the stuff. They may even have to start capping off wells and stuff like that. Are we at that point? Not necessarily. Let's listen to some audio of our fantastic Navy vessels executing the blockade and giving some warning to some ships that were in the port, warning them that the whole force of the Navy is ready to clap that ass if need be.
The U.S. has announced a formal blockade of Iranian ports and coastal areas. This is illegal action. All vessels are advised to immediately return to port if leaving and discontinue transit to Iran if that is your next port of call. Do not attempt to breach the blockade. Vessels will be boarded for interdiction and seizure transiting to or from an Iranian port. Turn around and prepare to be boarded. If you do not comply with this blockade, we will use force. The whole of the United States Navy is ready to force compliance. Now,
the whole of the United States Navy is ready to force compliance out. There have been some ships reportedly that have kind of rolled the dice and they seem like they may be ready to, I don't know, they seem like they were trying to come from the Gulf of Oman and enter into the Iranian port. They're using geolocations, they're using GPS, they're also using satellites to figure out, and transponders to figure out which ships seem to be heading to Iran, which ships seem to have just left the port of Iran. This is a big game of cat and mouse. Not only do we have to have naval ships, we always have to have birds in the air. We're gonna have to have QRFs ready. There's so many assets being used for this economic blockade, which could literally take months, as I mentioned before. But then we have to go this route. I don't know necessarily. So in a shift, the US asked Iran to suspend their nuclear enrichment program for 20 years. Now, reminder, we were under an agreement under the Obama administration, which had a sunset after 10 years and a ramp up process, but essentially for about 10 years, enrichment was not going to be able to fully take place under the old agreement. We were trying to double that, and Iran said, we'll give you 5. So we said no, we walked away with nothing. So my personal opinion on this is we may be cutting off our nose to spite our face. Now we got to spend all this extra money, all these extra resources, billions of dollars for this blockade. And if you wanted a political win, okay, you take the 5-year deal, you say it's way better than Obama's or say whatever the hell you want to. And during the 5-year span, you negotiate a better deal. If you're not able to, guess what? During that time frame, a presidential election happens. You could let it be the next guy's problem. That's one thing we could have did. We could have used diplomacy. We could have got the hell up out of there. We could have got to the point where we're not spending all this damn money on a blockade that seems to have like no clear end date. That's one big issue that I have. Another option that you have is, I don't know, counter it. It seems like it's like 20 years or nothing. Maybe you match the old deal or something like that. Maybe you go for 8. I don't know, but you both draw a line in the sand when you say, I want 20, I want 5. And you both are just trying to see which one works out for either side. And so it's a difficult thing to just quickly know which is going to work best for one. Now, the U.S. is saying that no ships made it through the blockade in the first 48 hours. We're seeing reports that 15 to 20 Chinese, Pakistani, and Russian and Iranian vessels made it through the Strait of Hormuz through after paying tolls. So Grok was asked to verify this, and they're confirming that 15 to 20 vessels did make it through in the last 36 hours. However, it's not 100% sure if they came from, if it came from Iranian ports. So I think we're just playing a word semantic game because there are ships making it, quote unquote, through the blockade. Those ships aren't necessarily coming from the Iranian ports. At least they shouldn't be in order to stay in compliance with that overall. So this is from Laura Selagram. She says that with enough warships, a blockade could intimidate many tankers attempting to move to and from Iran, but U.S. forces would need to be prepared to board and seize hostile ships that try to break the blockade. Hey, listen, we got to remember, hundreds of ships, 20,000 sailors have been stranded in the Gulf since the beginning of this war. Imagine, you see the little map I have here on the bottom left, that's all the current traffic that's going on right now. But imagine that you are you're normally in this, you're in this Gulf, you're waiting to be able to exit. Are you going to have that opportunity to fully exit? Not quite sure, but you may be willing to roll the dice where you can just try to get the hell up out of here, risk boarding. I'm not sure if that's going to be where we go next, but you really have to take that risk and think about if that's something that you're willing to do. So the U.S. is saying that there has not been any assets whatsoever that have evaded the blockade in the first 48 hours. I just showed you a report that there could have been some. I don't think we need a play-by-play of this every single day. I don't think that's very fruitful. I think we're going to need weeks, maybe months to see if this blockade is worth it. I mean, we have a blockade going on with Cuba. There's a blockade going on near Venezuela. And to bring Cuba to their knees, it took a very long time until there was a necessity to get oil from Russia into Cuba so that they would have power, use it for different power needs that they had in that country. I don't know if this is going to be quick. So the daily TikTok, I don't think is going to be the way that we're going to get a really fruitful way to see if this is something that's very, very accurate. We can still see that the futures for crude oil prices are still much above the amount they were at the beginning of this year. Even this blockade is not showing us anything that tells us where we could be if we weren't in this issue. Just look where we were in January of 2026, $57 a barrel for future prices whenever they were making these type of deals. We have so many, I feel like all this time here is where we don't want to be, where the X, but all these here is where we want to get back to for our prices to go back down. Are we going to be able to get there anytime soon? I'm not really sure, but I do want to kind of let you know that as you're looking at this information, you're hearing about a blockade, you're wondering like, X, is this the play? I don't think we should be doing this. I think it's going to cost a lot of money. And I feel like when somebody blocks you back in the day, what was your reflexive thing you would do? You block them back, right? I mean, I remember the days of star 69, calling somebody back, figuring out who they are, trying to figure out ways to hide your own number with star 67, blocking folks. I don't know if it 100% leads to anything but escalation, especially with reports that we're possibly sending an additional 10,000 troops to the area, which seems like we're getting closer and closer and closer to a ground invasion of Iran. But what do I know? I'm just a guy about to go on a light, leisurely walk and enjoy myself on an overcast day here in the Dallas Metroplex. Let me know what your comments down below. Do you think this blockade is going to work and our price is going to drop? Or do you think like X, yeah, I don't even know why we're wasting our time and money. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.